Return by Algernon Blackwood. It was curious, that sense of dull uneasiness that came over him so suddenly, so stealthily. At first he scarcely noticed it, but with such marked increase after a time, that he presently got up and left the theatre. His seat was on the gangway of the dress circle, and he slipped out awkwardly in the middle of what seemed to be the best and jolliest song of the piece. The full house was shaking with laughter. So infectious was the gaiety that even strangers turned to one another as if to say, "Now isn't that funny?" It was curious, too, the way the feeling first got into him at all, and in the full swing of laughter, music, light-heartedness, for it came as such a vague suggestion. "I've forgotten something I meant to do, something of importance. What in the world was it?" And he thought hard, searching vainly through his mind, then dismissed it as the dancing caught his attention. It came back again a little later, during a passage of long-winded talk that bored him and set his attention free once more, but came more strongly this time, insisting on an answer. What could it have been that he had overlooked, left undone, omitted to see to? It went on, nibbling at the subconscious part of him. Several times it happened, this dismissal and return, till at last the thing declared itself more plainly, and he felt bothered, troubled, distinctly uneasy. He was wanted somewhere. There was somewhere else he ought to be. That describes it best, perhaps. Some engagement of moment that had entirely slipped his memory, an engagement that involved another person, too. But where? What? With whom? And at length this vague uneasiness amounted to positive discomfort, so that he felt unable to enjoy the piece, and left abruptly, like a man to whom comes, suddenly, the horrible idea that the match he lit his cigarette with and flung into the waste-paper basket on leaving was not really out, a sort of panic distress. He jumped into a taxi and hurried to his flat, to find everything in order, of course. No smoke, no fire, no smell of burning. But his evening was spoiled. He sat smoking in his armchair at home, this business-man of 40, practical in mind, of character some called stolid, cursing himself for an imaginative fool. It was now too late to go back to the theatre. The club bored him. He spent an hour with the evening papers, dipping into books, sipping a long, cool drink. "I'll go to bed early for a change," he thought. But really, all the time fighting, yes, deliberately fighting, this strange attack of uneasiness that so insidiously grew upwards, outwards, from the buried depths of him that sought so strenuously to deny it. It never occurred to him that he was ill. He was not ill. His health was thunderingly good. He was as robust as a coal-heaver. The flat was roomy, high up on the top floor, yet in a busy part of town, so that the roar of the traffic mounted round it like a sea. Through the open windows came the fresh night air of June. He had never noticed before how sweet the London night air could be, and that not all the smoke and dust could smother a certain touch of wild fragrance. He swallowed a draught of it as he stood there, staring out across the tangled world of roofs and chimney-pots. He saw the procession of the clouds, he saw the stars, and he saw the moonlight falling in a shower of silver spears upon the slates and wires and steeples, and something in him quickened, something that had never stirred before. He turned with a horrid start, for the uneasiness had all of a sudden leapt up within him like an animal. There was someone in the flat. Instantly. Then the fancy vanished again. But all the same, he switched on the electric lights and made a search. For it seemed to him that someone whose silent presence fingered with unerring touch both this new thing that had quickened in his heart and that sense of original deep uneasiness. He was amazed at himself, angry, indignant that he could thus be foolishly upset over nothing, yet at the same time profoundly distressed at this vehement growth of a new thing in his well-ordered personality. Growth. He dismissed the word as soon as it occurred to him, but it had occurred to him. Growth. It was oddly disquieting. Growth to him meant instability, unbalance. Yet, singular as it all was, he realized that the uneasiness and the sudden appreciation of beauty that was so new to him had both entered by the same door into his being. When he came back to the front room, he noticed that he was perspiring. There were little drops of moisture on his forehead, and down his spine ran chills, little faint quivers of cold. He was shivering. He lit his big meerschaum pipe and left the lights all burning. The feeling that there was something he had overlooked, forgotten, left undone, had vanished. Whatever the original cause of this absurd uneasiness might be, he called it absurd on purpose, because he now realized in the depths of him that it was really more vital than he cared about. It was much nearer to discovery than before. It lodged just about below the threshold of discovery. It was as close as that. Any moment he would know what it was. He would remember. Yes, he would remember. Meanwhile, he was in the right place. No desire to go elsewhere afflicted him, as in the theatre. Here was the place, here in the flat. And then, it was with a kind of sudden burst and rush, it seemed to him the only way to phrase it, memory gave up her dead. At first, he only caught her peeping round the corner at him, drawing aside a corner of an enormous curtain, as it were, striving for more complete entrance, as though the mass of it were difficult to move. But he understood. He knew. He recognized. It was enough for that. As an entrance into his being, mind, heart, soul, was being attempted, there was effort, strain. Something in him had first to be opened up, widened, made soft and ready as by an operation before full entrance could be effected. This much he grasped, though for the life of him he could not have put it into words. Also, he knew who it was that had sought an entrance. Deliberately, he withheld from himself the name. But he knew, as surely as though Strawn had stood in the room and faced him with a knife, saying, let me in, I wish you to know I'm here, I'm clearing away, you recall our promise." He rose from his chair and went to the open window again, the strange fear slowly passing. The cool air fanned his cheeks. Beauty, till now, had scarcely ever brushed over the surface of his soul. It passed him by, indifferent, and he had ever loathed the mouthy prating of others about it. He was practical. Beauty was for dreamers, for women, for men who had means and leisure. He had not exactly scorned it. Rather, it had never touched his life to sweeten, to cheer, to uplift. Artists, for him, were like monks, another sex almost, useless beings who never helped the world go round. He was for action, always, work, activity, achievement, as he saw them. He remembered Strawn vaguely. Strawn, the ever impecunious friend of his youth. always talking of colour, sound, mysterious, ineffectual things. He even forgot what they had quarrelled about, if they had quarrelled at all even, or why they had gone apart all those years ago. And certainly he had forgotten any promise. Memory as yet only peeped at him round the corner of that huge curtain, tentatively, suggestively, yet he was obliged to admit it, somewhat winningly. He was conscious of this gentle, sweet seductiveness that now replaced his fear. "See it and understand," ran a secret inner whisper across his mind. He saw. He understood. He went back and turned the lights out. Then he took his place again at the open window, drinking in the night. He saw a new world. A species of intoxication held him. He sighed as his thoughts blundered for expression among words and sentences that knew him not. But the delight was there, the wonder, the mystery. He watched, with heart alternatingly tightening and expanding, the transfiguring play of moon and shadow over the sea of buildings. He saw the dance of the hurrying clouds, the open patches into outer space, the veiling and unveiling of that ancient silvery face. And he caught strange whispers of the hierophantic sacerdotal power that has echoed down the world since time began, and dropped strange magic phrases into every poet's heart since first God dawned on chaos, the beauty of the night. A long time passed. It may have been 1 hour, it may have been 3, when at length he turned away and went slowly to his bedroom. A deep peace lay over him. Something quite new and blessed had crept into his life and thought. He could not quite understand it all. He only knew that it uplifted. There was no longer the least sign of affliction or distress. Even the inevitable reaction that set in could not destroy that. And then, as he lay in bed, nearing the borderland of sleep, suddenly, and without any obvious suggestion to bring it in, he remembered another thing. He remembered the promise. Memory had got past the big curtain for an instant and showed her face. She looked into his eyes. It must have been a dozen years ago when Strawn and he had made that foolish, solemn promise that whoever died first should show himself, if possible, to the other. He had utterly forgotten it till now. But Strawn had not forgotten it. The letter came 3 weeks later from India. That very evening, Strawn had died at 9 o'clock, and he had come back in the beauty that he loved.